Hi everyone. It's a Thursday afternoon in January here in London at Oak Hill College. I was praying with my father last night in Nashville over FaceTime, and he pointed out something about Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31. Very famous verses, and justly so, that I had not noticed before. I had not quite realized how much is promised in this verse. I think it's relevant and helpful to all of us at Oak Hill. We all know verses 27 through 31 so well, and rightly so. They're so beautiful. It's easy to miss how sharp the initial complaint of verse 27 is. When Israel says, my way is hidden from God, that's not just Israel lodging an HR complaint with an employer. It's not just Israel saying, I wish I was higher on God's priority list. It's Israel saying, God has utterly abandoned us. We are completely outside his fatherly care and compassion. We do not arise in his mind. You hear those horrible stories about abusive parents who lock their kids in the room for 2 days straight because they're drunk out of their minds or something like that. That's what Israel's saying about God. He's an abusive father. And although that's incorrect, after the exile, that's understandable. My guess is that not many of you right now are thinking God's an abusive parent. But how many of you watching this video right now are thinking God is doing such a superb job taking care of me? I have everything I need. I feel so energized for tomorrow. Are any of us just bouncing out of bed in the morning? Most students that I talk to are pretty wrecked. If I'm being honest, I am too. And most students, I think, are looking down the barrel of semester 2, wondering how they're going to get to the end. So even if it's not quite as extreme as verse 27, even if it doesn't occur to us to say God simply abandoned, he's not even thinking, oh right, Israel, got to take care of them. We don't even arise in his thoughts. Even if we're not thinking that, it can be easy to believe the doctrine of omniscience and yet not feel at an emotional, instinctive level that God is really deeply aware of us, concerned for us, on our side and with us, and so on. And so this passage is relevant for us at this juncture of this year, for all of us at Oak Hill. If you know Isaiah 40, you know the passage. All of verses 12 through 26 are the doctrinal lesson as a setup so that when Isaiah prophetically, as a good counselor, unearths the deep question, the deep pain that Israel has about God's goodness. Verses 12 through 26 are there so that we can see, oh, no, okay, that's what I'm feeling, but that can't be true. You know the passage, you know, verse 12. Who's the one person who weighs all the dust of the earth in the scale? Well, it's obvious, it's God. Who's the one person who personally counts every particle of dust in the world? You could push that even further. Who's the one person who is personally aware of every atom in the universe? Who is personally aware of every subatomic particle in the universe, and who is directly aware of and sustaining all the subatomic particles in your body when you were asleep last night? Who's the one person who is sustaining the millions of atoms in your body when you wake up in the morning and you think, I'm so wrecked, where is God? Why is this happening? Well, obviously it's God. And if that's true, then we can't be outside of God's calculations. It's just impossible. And that's fine. In verses 27 through 31, Isaiah presses this home pastorally. Verse 28, don't you know, haven't you heard? As if to say, you really should know this? Yahweh is a God of eternity, the creator of the ends of the earth. So because God is the creator in the Old Testament, that the creation and the sustaining of creation hold hands. That means God is sustaining everything all the time, including Israel. If it's the ends of the earth, then he is definitely taking care of you. He hasn't forgotten about you. Verse 29, each verse builds on the last. It's not just that God is somehow distantly aware of you. He gives strength to the weary. So God is really generous with his strength. When I teach Isaiah, in this passage, I try to say 6 or 7 times in Isaiah 40, God is not tired, and he is not tired of you. He is not tired of you and your problems. You are not an irritation to him. He's not tired, and he's not tired of you. He gives strength to the weary. Then verse 30, young men grow faint and weary, chosen young men will surely stumble. That's a Hebrew way of saying rugby players and triathletes. They have their limits. I saw a triathlon once. With the finish line in sight, these amazing athletes were literally falling on the ground because not through a lack of willpower, but they had no more calories left in their body. They could not stand up. The most impressive athletes out there have their limits. But verse 31, those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. That's Isaiah saying, those who wait on the Lord will be able to do things that are superhuman. That those who wait on the Lord, exhausted people waiting on the Lord will be able to do things that are humanly impossible. So if you're looking down the barrel of semester 2 and it's not self-pity or hysteria, you're genuinely saying, I don't know how I'm going to do this, then Isaiah 40:31 is exactly for you. Now, part of what's so beautiful about verse 31, I had always read this as this is a shot in the arm. Verse 31 is, in your daily, hourly experience, God will be renewing you. And that's definitely true. That's part of what's going on in the verse. But I had sort of half thought to myself, well, okay, that's nice, but I'm just going to get tired again so quickly. So it's nice that God fills me up, but it's kind of a drag to get tired again. Then I have to wait more, and it kind of blunted how comforting the promise was. What my father helped me realize, the word there, strength, that includes both a kind of an occasional outburst of effort when you're trying to run really hard. It also includes a static capacity or characteristic of a person, how much depth they have, how much they can handle. You all know those people who seem to read about 10 books a week. They just have the capacity for that. The word strength there both means occasional effort and just how much oomph you have as a person, how much you can handle. The word strength there is used in Isaiah 40, verse 26, a couple of verses earlier, for God's strength. And God's strength doesn't go up and down. It's just who he is as a person. So for God to renew strength means not just daily, hourly help along the way. It means a deepening of who you are as a person, a kind of formation of soul. You are going to be able, as you exhausted people who wait on the Lord are transformed, they are renewed, both in daily experience and in who they are as people and what they can give. Friends, when you came to Oak Hill in the midst of the pandemic, the lockdown and self-isolation, everything we've had to do, everything that has been so not ideal, God was not looking at that saying, oh boy, okay, I guess I better do a plan B. God in his providential wisdom, your year here, your exhausting year here at Oak Hill that has wrecked you and you're only halfway through, that is God's means of deepening you as a minister and a servant so that you can minister in ways that would just be impossible for you otherwise and that are absolutely impossible in the flesh. You are going to be a different person by the end of this year in ways that you're not even fully aware of. And when you go out to ministry, because of this year at Oak Hill, people that Jesus loves and that Jesus shed his blood for are going to look at you and they're going to be able to say, oh, that's who Jesus is. They're going to be able to look at you and say, so that's how good God is. Those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength, not just in terms of daily experience, it definitely includes that, but in your capacity as a person, your capacity to minister. Exhausted waiting on God is the arena, it's the doorway into that supernatural renewal of strength, day by day, and in your soul. It's a kind of formation of soul. And the only qualification is you got to be wrecked, got to be exhausted, and you got to wait. That's it. That's it. I think it'd be appropriate for us at Oak Hill to pray and to ask God to prove Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31 true for all of us. And if any of you want to write me about how God is renewing your strength in daily experience and in who you are as a person, I'd so love to hear from you. Thanks, everyone.